As our Madam President said, today's theme is back to school. And did you know that on April 23rd, 1635, the first public school in what would become the United States was established in Boston, Massachusetts? I grew up in Massachusetts, by the way, and I worked in Boston. While the Boston Latin School has changed locations, it is still operating today. Can you believe it? Please welcome our club president, distinguished Toastmaster, Lois Margolin.
Thank you, Lou. And you are right. We are officially 1 minute early, so I will wait before bringing up the Toastmaster of the day. But I forgot to introduce myself. I am Lois Margolin here in South Florida, excited to be president of this amazing club. Thank you to Jimmy Dent for leaving us in such fabulous shape. We are a strong advanced club for those of you that are first-time visitors, and we are very excited to show off our members to you. And Elaine, I don't know if you were here when Marianne said, yes, she's going to join. So we'll make sure that happens. Yes, I'm seeing all the raise the roof. Jimmy Dent, thank you very much again for leaving us in such fabulous shape. And I have 7:45, which means I am now going to officially welcome our Toastmaster of the day, Mr. John Quick.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, everybody, to August 12th, our back to school themed meeting. Well, your public schools may differ, but let's not forget our universities, which are almost always on the same schedule worldwide. Speaking of that, here's our video to set the tone for our back to school theme. Let me make sure I'm sharing the old computer sound on this. Here we go.
He could have been a maniac. Hey, get these guys some new books. Get some new books, will you? I'll tell you what, charge it to me too. Okay, here, pick a card. And I'll tell you, I'm taking 4 of those school sweaters, a bunch of pennants, some of those beer mugs, a few of these fuzzballs you cheer with, and hey, folks, it's on me. Shakespeare for everyone, okay? You too, honey. Ooh, I like that.
All right, there's Rodney Dangerfield for us in the movie Back to School. Well, we could watch school video clips all meeting, but instead let's get on with our program today because we're here to learn and practice our skills as Toastmasters. Today we have several people helping us out. Let's give a moment for each of them to tell us any special way they're going to perform their duties today. First up is our timer, Jim Barber.
Oh boy. Here at Online Presenters, we are trying to do something new, trying to learn something, and I'm doing that also. With any luck, as the timer this evening, when the minimum time of our speakers, evaluators, or table topic presenters is reached, the indicator will change to the green light, telling them that they are able to quit. We have the yellow light halfway through the allowed time, and we move to the red light, the stop sign, when people are supposed to stop their whatever they're doing. As everybody knows, I believe that computers are the 7th sign of the apocalypse, so there is a very good chance that the technology is going to fail us. So, if it doesn't work, my low-tech solution is green, yellow, whoop, there, yellow, and, oh, this is the only red thing I could find, so red. And in that direction, if anybody needs an audio cue, let me know ahead of time, and I will prompt you at the minimum time with a single tap, a double tap halfway through, and when the red light has reached the maximum time, 3 taps. But please don't ask me to do that unless you really need it. I've got my hands full here. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, great job, Jim. I like the backup, and in fact, the drum is the best audio cue I've heard. In the whole years we've been looking for this. Now we all know what we need.
Thank you.
On our desks. Our counter today is Deborah Carr.
The honor counter is coughing a lot. Anyway, I am here to count the ahs, ers, different filler words, and things like that. So if you what I do is just count them all together, and then some people can contact me if they want to know how many they had. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Deborah. Our grammarian today is Graham Carnes.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. There is a line in the original, well, actually not the original, but in the 70s version of A Star is Born, where the song goes, "The spirits rise and the dance is unrehearsed." I want your language to rise and dance unrehearsed today. And I'll be taking note of the dances, the arabesques, which are good. But I will also be telling you if you're doing a line dance and going clonkety, clonkety, clonk. So my job is to watch how people's language is used and to comment on it. And I'll also be seeing how many people use the word of the day, detention. If you don't use it, you may end up there.
All right, thank you, Graham. Hopefully we all have some good stories about being in detention to share during table topics today. But always be aware, if you don't like that definition, there are so many other definitions of detention that you can also use. So get creative tonight with that. Next up, our watcher is Sybil Badugu.
So, there we go. I am Sybil Badugu, and I am going to keep an eye on anything unusual. I'm watching all of you on the screen, and I will report back at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Sybil. Our chat monitor is Lou Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. As chat monitor, I will be monitoring that chat area. For those who may not know where that is, click on the word chat with the bubble right there at the bottom of your screen. You are free to use the chat box at any time, but please give all the speakers your attention so that you can properly vote for them. And if you do chat, please mute yourself so that you're not typing loudly, because if you do type loudly, you'll wind up in detention. And I'll provide a report at the end of the meeting, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Lou. Our vote counter is Clarissa Dotet.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I will be accepting your votes via private chat, and trying to see. Yes, so we're doing table topics. So you will submit your votes to me for table topics for best speaker and best evaluator. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Clarissa. That is all of our helpers for today. Thank you all very much for supporting our meeting. It's time for the first segment, our prepared speeches. Of course, after that, we'll follow with table topics, our opportunity for impromptu speech. And following that, our speakers will get immediate feedback, as well as all of us will learn from the evaluation segment. Let's begin our prepared speeches. Our first speaker today is Norman Dow. Norman Dow has served as a leader in a variety of environments. He's been a pastor, the Chief Information Officer of a federal agency, and a member of the Board of Directors of the National Black Evangelical Association. This varied experience has led him to develop a leadership approach he calls the D's of leadership. This speech is Visionary Communication, Level 2, Understanding Your Leadership Style. Norman Dow, Norman's D's of leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. The D's of leadership. When I took this path, one of the things on it was to take an assessment to understand my leadership style. I was really surprised because of all of these different types of leadership. I think there's 7 different kinds. My scores went from a low 17 to 23. I was fairly balanced, an evenly distributed leader. Really, I wasn't surprised because as a leader, and I've worked at being one for over 40 years, I'm committed to accomplishing the mission of the organization through others. And in my varied leadership roles, I have actually settled on an approach that I've applied in the public sector, private sector, nonprofits, and even in Toastmasters. The D's of leadership. The D's is an acronym. It stands for discern, equip, empower, and then support. Discern, equip, empower, and support. When we talk about discern, there's a question. It's a question that we need to understand as leaders. What are the particular attributes, passions, skills, talents of their people who we're leading? There's a proverb that talks to parents about their children. It says, train up a child according to their bent. Well, we need to discern the bent of the people, the men and women, or in some cases, boys and girls, who we are leading. As a leader, I start out trying to figure out what are people naturally inclined to do? What are they skilled to do? What is their particular temperament and focus? What is their bent? Once I have found their bent, my task is to discover how their bent most applies to the mission of the organization that I'm heading. So I really want to align people, their bent, to how that best fits into the task we want to accomplish. Once I've discerned what the people's bent is, my next challenge is to equip them. Equip them is twofold. First of all, it's really to address any of the personal issues that they're facing. Many people lack the self-confidence. They don't believe they can. I have a saying, if you believe you can, you might be right. If you believe you can't, you definitely are right. I would like to infuse self-confidence and deal with hurts and discouragements and disappointments so that the people are ready to accept the skills and the knowledge necessary to do the task that's assigned them, hopefully a task that is consistent with their bent. Once we have actually identified the people's bent, dealt with equipping them, dealing with their hurts and discouragements and self-concept and lack of skills, then we move on to empower them. Now, empowerment is in some ways the most difficult, because to empower someone is to release them to do what you have challenged them to do. They may never have done it before. And if they do it, it's likely they will do it wrong. In all likelihood, you can do the task better than they do. You will have to step back, release them to try and to fail, and to get up and try again, and to fail, and to get up and try again, and to fail. Now, I'm talking to Toastmasters. I'm aware that most of us have failed and failed and failed as we try to become adequate or even competent public speakers. We need to empower the people to try and to fail, to keep on trying until they get it right. And then once they get it right, then we finish with supporting them. We need to support them by encouraging them, giving them words of encouragement, positive feedback, providing whatever is necessary for them to continue to succeed. When we do that, we can step back and watch them develop their wings and begin to fly and move on as effective people accomplishing the mission of the organization, doing what we have encouraged them or enabled them to do by applying D's. My D's: accomplish the mission through others. Remember that as you attempt to lead others. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Norman. Our second speaker tonight is Magda van Ruin. Magda's presentation is about a woman who decided to change the lives of other women in her community and then in the entire country. The outcome of this woman's life inspired and challenged Magda. She would like to share this simple story with its much deeper lesson for all humans. This is from Motivational Strategies, Level 1, Researching and Presenting. Magda's speech is titled, Be Like a Hummingbird. Welcome, Magda.
One day, long ago, there was a fire in the forest. All the animals were scared. They felt overpowered. But the hummingbird decided to make a plan. Over and over, she launched a drop of water on the fire because that was all she could carry. The other animals, including the elephant, said things like, "You are too small. You are too weak. You are too insignificant." And our answer is, I might be a small bird, but I do the best I can. Toastmaster and friends, what image is imprinted in your brain when you think about a hummingbird? I think about their wonderful colors, the colors in their feathers, and how hard they work to get a tiny drop of nectar, how small and insignificant they are in the tapestry of wildlife, and how consistent they are in their efforts. All these points make for a strong metaphor for the life of one particular African woman who lived in Kenya. Her name is Wangari Maathai, and she received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004. Like other African women, she had really bright clothes, almost as bright as those of Norman's video presentation, and as beautiful as our feathery friends. Like the hummingbirds, the women in Africa don't have much status. Most women work extremely hard to cook food for themselves and their children. Working so hard to put food on the table is a cultural aspect that has many negative influences on African women. Like many other cultures, males dominate the lives of women and their fertility. Men procreate, and then often they abandon their family responsibilities. And these cultures, the onus is on the woman to show that she is fertile before the man will get married. Can you see the problem? According to the Daily Nation, August 2013, more than 60% of women at the age of 45 raise children alone. Poverty is a given. I have the utmost respect for these women. To feed their children, these single women need to find firewood to cook food. The white gruel is almost tasteless. It must be cooked, and also a bit of wild greens and meat. And firewood was really expensive. The situation was even worse in the 1960s, when Wangari started the Green Belt movement. The forest shrank in Kenya from 10% to 5%. Politicians told her that women can't plant trees. It's a job of trade foresters. Of course, all men. With their monopoly of this scarce resource, these men had a roaring side trade of selling firewood for cooking. Wangari, of course, didn't listen, and with the financial help of the United Nations, she paid women a couple of shillings for each seedling or sapling that they planted. She motivated them with this little bit of money and with the hummingbird story. The story helped the millions of mostly illiterate women to understand her message. As in the story of the hummingbird, she and the village woman made a plan, and together they planted 30 million trees. Yes, 30 million trees. Wangari overcame many obstacles. Her husband divorced her on the grounds that he could not control her. As a rebel, she was jailed and beaten. She survived tear gas, malicious rumors, and many unjust actions of a government. And the results of her persistence was amazing. By 2004, the women had 6,503 nurseries all over Kenya. Women through their labor realized they're free, they're not powerless. They can trust in themselves and provide for themselves. Now women have their own supply of firewood. They have money to buy food for their children. The result of this enormous power shift was that women and girls now had time to be educated, to go to school, often for the first time. Millions of women wear a t-shirt with the slogan, "As for me, I've made a choice." I want to read what Vangari said in an acceptance speech as it is reported on the Ecology website, October 24, 2011. She said, "Now is the time," she said, "there comes a time when humanity is called to shift to a new level of consciousness, to reach a higher moral ground, a time when we have to shed our fear and give some hope to each other. That time," she said, "is now. For us, the time is also now. Just like the hummingbird, we can do our bit." In conclusion, Vangari Matai's message to us today is, you may feel insignificant, but certainly you don't want to be like the other animals, watching the planet's demise. You can be like a hummingbird. You can do the best you can. According to the New York Times in October 14, 2004, the message of the Nobel Committee is that in future, real hope for peace with each other and with the earth lies in the individual and collective choices of empowered citizens. That hope is you. Can you say, "As for me, I've made my choice"? Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Magda. Our third speaker tonight is Antoinette Trim. Her introduction: I am happy to report that the skills that I've gained from Toastmasters have been applied to a real-life situation. Just last week, I was placed on the spot to chair a meeting, and some of the skills I learned from attending and participating in Toastmasters meetings helped me to implement the role. This is from Motivational Strategies, Level 2, Mentoring Speech. And Antoinette's title is Mentoring, What's in It for Me? Let's welcome Antoinette.
Thank you, Toastmaster. There are at least 3 differences in mentoring and coaching. This is in accordance to the Kent State University's website, 2019. Mentoring is relationship-oriented. It therefore seeks to provide a safe environment where persons share both their personal and professional successes. On the other hand, coaching focuses on issues, teaching someone how to develop skills. Mentoring is development-driven in that it helps the person to develop individually, not only for the job at hand, but for future endeavors. On the contrary, coaching is performance-driven. Once the mentee has acquired the required skill, the coach is no longer needed. Coaching does not require the design as it can be done on a particular topic. However, mentoring requires a design phase. In most cases, mentoring and coaching occur simultaneously. For example, after being under the care of my mother for a fairly long time, I realized that I've adopted some of her practices. For instance, when someone was about to visit our home, my mom would kill herself cleaning out. And even after the visitors left, she will also do the same. Now that I'm adult, I seem to do the same thing. I've also, after entering into the workplace, I was a probationary catcher for about a period of 6 months. It was one of my most grueling experiences as I enter into work life. I had to be following my coach all the time. I even was given an opportunity to do transactions or to attend to a customer. And the customer will give me some brief words or some harsh words. And the customers, at times the customer will say, well, tell my coach, you cannot train a racehorse on racehorse day. At times, my coach and I, during my training period, we'd even go to lunch together. That's to tell you how I had to be like stamp on letter with my coach and I. Fast track that now to Toastmasters. When I joined my brick and mortar club, my mentor was Toastmaster Trisha. She was inundated with calls from me, to which she responded. I'm glad she never thought about me to go into detention. As a matter of fact, we even planned to attend the Caribbean Conference of Toastmasters together. We do have a bond. Where am I going with this? There are 4 elements of Toastmasters mentoring program. After completion of level 2 in any path, you are given an optional curriculum of the Toastmasters mentoring program. Advantages of becoming a mentor. The mentor obtains emotional satisfaction in that you are able to make a difference in someone else's life, as well as you inadvertently build skills on leadership and communication. Some of the characteristics of becoming a mentor in Toastmasters are: 1, you must be patient. As a mentor, you must be patient. It is not a 100-meter dash, but rather it's like a long distance running. Your mentor your mentee will not always give the best speech, but as a mentor, you have to be diplomatic, and also you have to be honest. And as a mentor, you must be readily available and be positive. But you know what? All of us are mentors in our own right. We have mentored our children. We continue to mentor our colleagues. We continue to mentor our friends. Mentoring. What is in it for you? Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Antoinette. Excellent job, all of our speakers today. Mr. Timer, did everybody qualify today?
Yes, they did. Norman spoke for 6 minutes, Magda spoke for 6 minutes and 28 seconds, and Antoinette spoke for 5 minutes and 3 seconds. I will post that in the chat.
Thank you, Mr. Timer. Let's all send our votes for best speaker by private message to Clarissa, please. Our next segment is Table Topics, where we get to practice impromptu speaking. Leading our segment tonight is Lois Margolin.
Thank you, Toastmaster John. I am excited to be your table topic master tonight. And believe it or not, we're starting a few minutes early, so I might be able to get an extra few table topics in there. In the States, school is just starting up. The buses are starting to heat up as they do their initial rotation just to make sure everything's on time and that they know their routes. The kids are going to get all their new clothes, and it's an exciting time. Marianne, this one's for you. Tell me about your favorite school memory. Oh, excuse me, before you start, Mr. Timer, could you explain the timing requirements?
With pleasure, Madam Toastmaster. Timing is from 1 to 2 minutes.
Thank you. And can you tell everybody, all of our guests, how the lights will work?
Oh, I suppose I can do that. Let's see. With any luck, it's going to be like it was for the speakers. When the minimum time is met, 1 minute, I will change to the green display. At 1.5 minutes, we will change to the yellow display. And at the 2-minute mark, we will change to the red display. And if that doesn't work, to heck with it, I'm not going to do anything.
Oh, well, that works perfect for me. Marianne, again, tell me about your favorite school memory.
My favorite school memory, I have to go back to the Netherlands where I grew up as a child. And we did not have school buses in my country. We had to go, as we say, go uphill both ways, whether it's rain or shine. It didn't matter. You rode your bike to school, and that was just the way it was. So my favorite school memory is going to high school, where we would go from one town to another, about 10 kilometers apart. And there were about 30, 40 kids that would do that trip by bike. And we would all wait at one particular area in our town. And then all together, we would ride our bikes to school. And then in another little town in the middle of this, there would be a group of kids from another village, and now the group was about 60 kids big. And by the time that we arrived at school, there was this massive, huge group of kids. And it was just a lot of fun. You got to know a lot of people, and it was a mix of kids from any age ranges. And for me, that was just one of the magical parts of going to school.
All right. Thank you very much. Great job. Rolanda, tell us your favorite, or not so favorite, detention story. We all saw Jumanji. We know how bad detention can be. Tell us your favorite story.
Thank you, Madam Topic Master. Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Most welcome guests. Detention. My mom never liked the idea of either school calling or hearing about me getting in trouble in school. She never liked the idea that having to show up in school because of something I did or something that happened in school because of me. And I always try to be my best to not to get any detention. Always trying to be on time, always running when I get the bell so I can make it on time so I don't get any detention, because if you're late 3 times, you get a detention. I also try to be my best not to speak up while the teacher is speaking, try to be my best behavior and not upset the teacher so she can give me a detention. But a couple times in my French class, I started speaking in the back thinking that she was not gonna hear me. And I started speaking, and I thought she wasn't listening to me, but she heard what I'm saying. And she called me up, she write me up, and I had to go to the office. And when I went to the office, they said, you have to stay for detention. And I said, wow, how am I gonna tell my mom that I have a detention? They said, I don't know, you got to stay for detention. I said, okay. That day, when that day showed up, because it would happen the week and next week I had to stay for detention, I told my mom that, please, you are gonna have to pick me up later because there's something I have to do. She said, what do you have to do? I said, I have to do something after school. And she kept on pressing me, and I had to finally tell her, Mom, I have a detention. And she blew up on me. And she said, why did you tell me the truth to begin with? I said, I'm sorry, Mom. It won't happen again. And that was the last time I had a detention. And I made sure of that. Back to you, Madam Topic Master.
Thank you, Rolando. I loved hearing your story. This one is for Clarissa. Did I say your name correctly? Is it Clarissa?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Perfect. Let's see. This one is, tell us about one of the worst outfits your mom or your school made you wear. I didn't want to give this to a gentleman.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, one of the worst outfits that my mom made me wear. Let me just go back a little bit. My mom she's retired CAD designer for an engineering firm, but her passion is tailoring. She designs clothing. Well, when I was younger, I was really, really skinny and very bow-legged. Growing up in the 70s, you remember the flared bell bottoms, right? And I was a tomboy. I would rather wear Levi tough knee jeans. And she wanted to put me in these bell bottom. They were hot pink with these big bright flowers on them. And they were like really bell. And so my legs were like this and they were flare. So she sent me to school in this bright bell bottom pantsuit. I was miserable. I cried all the way. I was in the 3rd grade, I believe. And that was the most horrible time of my life. And I just begged her, please don't make me wear this. Oh, you're so cute. You're going to be fine. I got to school and not only was I bow-legged, but I had what you would call the clumsy jean. So when the bottom of the pants were flapping, I would trip. It was just horrible. And she put me in platform. So think about that one too. Bow-legged, bell-bottom jeans, platforms, and I had the clumsy jean. It was not a great day. I would have rather gone to detention than to walk around in bell-bottoms all day. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Okay, and I just had to wear those bloomers that they made you wear in gym. I never had to go through all of that, so wow. This one is from Mr. John Callahan in Michigan, originally from Canada. You just entered your senior year of high school. If you could go back and give yourself some advice, what would you say?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Masters, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Senior year of high school in Canada was a little bit different because at that time in Canada, we had a grade 13. So by the time you got to senior year, I was already 18 going on 19. At the time, the legal drinking age in Canada was 18, which meant that by the time I was a senior in high school by Canadian standards, I was legal to drink. So if I was to look back on those years, I would probably tell myself, please don't go to the bar at lunchtime. It's not a good idea. You're probably going to have an unproductive afternoon. Now, many times my friends and I, we would go down to the local bar, we would have a pitcher of beer and a round of burgers for lunch, and then come back and kind of struggle through the afternoon. But then every now and then we would meet up with some of our teachers down there because they would do the same thing. So we would end up having the entire afternoon as a big bowl session around the table at the bar and had wonderful relationships with our teachers. So I'd probably look back on that and say, John, that probably wasn't a good idea, but it was a hell of a good time. Madam Table Topics Master.
You're making us all jealous, but you're right. Probably not a good idea, but the stories you could tell that you probably never would. All right, looking around, we still have some time. Mr. Graham, you go to school that is very different than how we look at it. What do you think is the biggest difference between your school and school in the States? Or what would you imagine it to be?
Madam Topics Master, ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry to say the primary difference between schools where I went and schools where you went are the metal detectors. We didn't require them. Australian schools are different to American schools in that we only have effectively two schools. There are primary schools up to year 7, or now year 6, and then high schools from year 7 through to year 12, or in some cases 13. So there's no middle school in the sense that Americans have. And high school is not separated from adolescence the way that high school is in the United States, which means that we have a range of students between the ages of perhaps 12 and 18 in high school. And we have a range of students between 5 and 12 in primary school. And what that does is it means that you don't get the same focus on football, for example. Yes, we play sport in Australia and we're big sports players. And yes, there are football players in high school who go on to become semi-pro or even professional players. But because our high schools cover such a wide range of ages, we don't have the focus on sports the way that North American schools do. And the advantage to that, I think, is that it seems to me that many Americans see the ages of 16 and 17 as being the high point of their lives because that's where they achieved the most. Whereas Australians don't see it that way. For us, being 16 or 17 merely means that you're a year shy of, like the Canadians, being able to drink at 18. Madam Topics Master.
Well, thank you. That is very different. I'm glad I asked you the question. Jimmy Dent, tell us about your favorite class in elementary school. Take us back.
My favorite class in elementary school, that was second grade, mainly because the teacher. I was in love with Miss Gardner. She was young, beautiful, and she was also the neighbor of my grandmother and grandfather, which I stayed at usually on weekends. And she also was the coordinator at the neighborhood playground right across the street from my grandmother and grandfather's house. So I got to see her on the weekends also, not just at school. But that was my favorite class because I was just in love with her. And then one day my heart was broken because she told us she got engaged. And she was going to not be at the school anymore at the end of the year. She was going to get married. And her husband was moving away out of the area. He was moving for another job, and she wouldn't be at school anymore. And that broke my heart. That was probably my first love. And it was heartbreaking at the same time. Back to you, Lois.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. My heart was breaking for you, too. That was such a touching story. Yay. Lou Brown, or Lewis Brown, whichever you prefer to go by tonight. Try and finish this sentence. I remember it raining, and I was trying to get to school. I remember it raining when I was trying to get to school. Any memories?
Topics Master. That sounded like a complete sentence already. So
you can tell us a story about it.
Wow. You know, as a kid, when it rained, I would look forward to it. I would just go outside without a raincoat, without an umbrella. I would just splash around in the rain. I used to have so much fun. Now, of course, as I'm older, I don't like the rain as much, and quite frankly, it's probably pretty toxic now, so I'm not sure I'd want to do kind of the things I used to do when I was a kid, like, you know, let the rain go in my mouth and stuff like that. But, you know, I have to say, as a kid, I mean, we just enjoy life so much more in general. I guess, I mean, it's at that age where, you know, the world is at your feet. But I remember those days in particular when it would rain, and it's interesting because I lived in a cul-de-sac with, our house was in the middle at the very end of the cul-de-sac, and there were 2 houses on either side. All of the kids from that neighborhood, we would all meet in the middle of the circle of the cul-de-sac, and we'd play tag, we'd play hide and seek, we'd play all kinds of games. In particular, when it would rain, that would almost be like the signal. You know, you'd see us all come running out of the house left and right and dashing toward the middle of the circle and just dancing around. You think we're, you know, probably doing a dance to make it stop raining or something like that, but it was actually just us kind of playing around and enjoying the weather. And when we're talking about back to school, I mean, my whole memory goes back to just my whole childhood in terms of not just school, but all of these wonderful days I had during the summer, during the school year, and in particular, the topic that you just mentioned, on a rainy day, just being outside with all of my friends and enjoying even a rainy day. It can be fun to a kid. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, Lou. I remember just splashing around, kicking that water as high as you could and coming home drenched, and that meant it was a good day. My last table topic will go to Viviana. She's still, there she is. Viviana, tell us about a class you never wanted to take. And welcome back, Viviana. We have missed you.
Hello, Luis. The class that I won't take is when I was in primary school. There was a class like to learn traditional language, like a Javanese language. Then we had to learn to write it differently from our language, and I had a low score. And the teacher was very strict. So I didn't want to join that class, but in primary school, everyone have to take the same class, the same lesson. And when it comes to my children, I put them in a private school. So they can choose the subject that they like. So it doesn't happen like my time before, that I had no choice to take the subject that I didn't like. Back to you, Lois.
Thank you, Viviana. That concludes our table topics with 8 individuals. Mr. Timer, how did everybody do?
Madam Toastmaster, pretty much everybody did great. First of all, my apologies to Graham. The red light turned itself on prematurely, but he recovered very nicely. Everyone qualified except Rolando. Specifically, Marianne spoke for 115, Rolando for 240, Clarissa for 202, John for 127, Graham for 155, Jimmy for 121, Lewis for 145, and Viviana for 105. I'll post them as quick as I can type them.
Thank you. And since we had so many, I'm going to just remind you of their topic. Marianne spoke about her favorite memory. Clarissa about her worst outfit. John, what would I tell myself if I went back? Graham about the difference in the schools and the different nations. Jimmy Dent was about his heartbreak. Lewis Brown was I remember it raining. And Viviana about the class you never wanted to attend or go to. Please send your votes to Clarissa. Mr. Toastmaster, back to you.
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. Our next segment is evaluations, where we're going to get instant feedback to our speakers, and we're all going to learn from what the evaluators have to say. Leading our general evaluation segment today is a man with good taste in t-shirts, Tiger McAndy.
Thank you very much, John. And I don't know either, so we're on even terms. First of all, let's give a shout out to our timer, Mr. Barber, who of course is always professional and on the spot, even though he throws red lights out every once in a while just to make people have to adjust. If you have not done your voting yet, please send your votes to our vote counter, Clarissa. So she's got about 3 or 4 minutes here to count votes as I go through the other evaluators. But first of all, speech evaluators. For Norman, we are going to get an evaluation from Jacinta. Please take it.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Good evening, everyone. And most importantly, to Norman. Norman, the D's of Leadership. Such a catchy title. And there's 3 things that I'd like to highlight and 2 suggestions that we all can learn from with Norman's speech. The title was catchy. I wanted to know more. What are Norman's D's of leadership? So Norman, excellent job with having a catchy title. It's important as speakers to have something to keep the audience engaged. The slides, this is an online club. Your slides were a 10. 10, ladies and gentlemen, 10. They were very clear, they were concise, and the pictures, I hope you observed and appreciated how his pictures actually explained what the slides were going to say. That's an excellent tip for all of us as presenters to be able to keep in mind that the slides need to engage the audience. Creating an acronym. As speakers, we understand that our audience wants to hear from us. They want to take something from us. Norman gave us the opportunity to take away discern, equip, empower, and support. If you didn't know what D's was, you know what that means and how you can apply that in your lives when you're working to help other individuals grow and improve, which is an excellent technique, Norman. Way to go with that. You were very clear and articulate in your speech as always. You have a very commanding voice. We want to hear what you have to say. And I do want to add a bonus. What you did was awesome. Your hand gestures. I appreciate it when you said encourage and you did the hand clap. Keep in mind when you're presenting a speech, the audience needs to see your hands. And having those big gestures on this very, very tiny screen comes across as being huge, which is more impactful to the audience. There's a couple recommendations that can be used to improve and enhance your already very, very impactful speech. Gestures is actually one. I noticed a couple of times that your hands were down here. If you could put your hands up a bit more so we can see exactly what you're trying to show with the hand gesture. The second would be to pause a bit more so that we can digest the information. You finished up at 6 minutes, so you had more time to pause so that we could really take it in, what you were saying, because you had some very, very critical information that can be applied to anyone. There's one aspect I'd like to challenge yourself on. To work on those gestures and movements and make them more purposeful. You gave one example, which was great, when you mentioned about take a step back and release what you've learned, but you lean forward. I would recommend to lean back. So take time to go through what those gestures should be. Amazing speech. I highlighted a bonus 4 great things, 2 improvements. Awesome speech, Norman. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Jacinta. That was a 10. All right, our next evaluator for Magda, and if I did not get that right, I will do detention. Mr. David Carr, please take it away.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Magda. I think this is my favorite speech of yours that I've heard. It's an interesting project. I mean, the research project gives you really the opportunity to research whatever you want, but to come to us with a well-researched story and presentation that you're going to give, and you mixed it up with storytelling techniques. And actually, at the beginning, I wasn't quite sure about the story, and is this just some cute little diversionary thing? But it turns out that this is the story that the subject of your speech, the Nobel laureate, actually used in her work. You presented that along the way, and that made it much more meaningful to me. I think that you're illustrating something about the story of being told you're insignificant, you can't make a difference. And that was really this woman's whole story. And I'm sorry, I'm still not sure I quite caught her name, even though I think you flashed up on screen at some point, or no, you posted a link, so I did take a quick look after the fact. So the fact that her whole story was about showing that the individual people, the women in the community, could make a difference. They could make a little bit of an economic difference for themselves by having some additional way of earning some money, and they could make a difference for their country and their environment by doing what she was coaching them to do. So I think it's a powerful story, and I don't have a lot of critique. I mean, I was wondering at some point, you know, we're presenting at a visual meeting, and there's not a lot of visuals here. But I think I liked you just speaking to the camera more than I would have liked if you had come up with some PowerPoint display. And when you mentioned the hummingbird, there was a picture of a hummingbird. I think it was better that you were just telling us the story and engaging us with the story with the power of you as the speaker. Maybe one or two visuals could have been worked in, but it is actually a tricky technique to switch back and forth between presenting face to face and showing something on screen and then coming back to face. So probably it's an arguable point. You know, that might have been overcomplicating things. And I think what you delivered was very effective and very meaningful. I enjoyed it. Mr. General Evaluator, thank you, Magda.
Thank you very much, David. As always, well done. And our third evaluator for Antoinette will be Christian. Please take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I just went down memory lane when I listened to Antoinette's speech. Antoinette, thank you for sharing this magnificent speech about mentoring. Mentor, and I'm not going to say mentee, but protege, because that's how we now define it in pathways. Antoinette, you had one purpose in your speech, which was to clearly define what mentoring is for Toastmasters. And I timed you. You spent 1 hour, 30 minutes to tell me what mentoring is and is not. Share the difference between mentoring and coaching. And you went on and shared a bit about what pathways said as well. That was very well done. You also went on to have good structure. When I say good structure, I mean you had an introduction, a body, and a close. Now, having said that, at some point, when you moved from the intro to the body, I was a bit lost and had the same sensation of loss when you ended with your close, because you were just going at the same pace, neither fast, neither slow, but the mentoring train was going on at a constant pace. And for me, I could not recognize the transition. So what I would have loved you to do differently is maybe, for example, when you had mentoring is this, and then just pause and let me digest that and then move. While mentoring is this is coaching. And as you go on, had more pauses for purpose and for intent. You also had something very interesting. You had a lot of information, but you also were doing something like this. I'm going to do what you were doing, what I saw. Christian, this is mentoring. Christian, this is mentoring. I felt that at some point you were reading your notes. If you were actually doing that, my recommendations for you is twofold here. Put the notes in an orientation so that they are either beneath your little red dot of a camera or above. And then what happens is, Antoinette, this is me reading my notes, looking around at my timer and looking at you eye in eye, eye to eye. And that would be not distracting at all. Moving on, you also had, with the pace and the pose, like I said earlier, they were just going at a constant pace. And I would have loved you to have a lot of hand gestures, not a lot, but purposeful hand gestures. The way you were seated like this, Christian, I'm going to talk about mentoring. I'm still a protege. I'm not proud of it. No, Christian, I am a protege. I'm going to be a mentor. And this is me showing my hands, my hands, my hands. And this is how we use hands. And Christian, learn from me. And I was looking forward to that. So please, please, please have the hand gestures. Having said that, you did meet the objectives of your speech. And I really look forward to your next delivery, madam. Over to you, Mr. Journal Evaluator.
Thank you, Christian. As always, we had 3 excellent evaluations. Please send your votes to our vote counter, Clarissa. At this time, we're going to do our grammarian, and that will be Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations on a meeting where the language was used remarkably well tonight. Detention was only used by, as I noted, Lewis, Antoinette, Clarissa, and Tiger all used detention. I think I did as well, but I'm grammarian, so that doesn't count. Talking of grammar, Clarissa used the word via to talk about send your votes via personal message. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but via is actually an interesting word. It comes from the Latin meaning the way, and hence the roads that are via this and via that. We use it as the way forward or by way of. I just thought that was interesting. It struck me as a grammarian to do that. I also loved her use of what you might call the clumsy gene. I knew exactly what she was talking about there, and I think we all did. That was a particularly evocative phrase there. Norman's discern, equip, empower, and support was a really good acronym. One suggestion I might make for Norman is he quoted a proverb, which I wasn't familiar with, but that was to teach your children by way of their bet. Well, in fact, it was bent, but I kept hearing the word bet. So it might have been it might have been better if Norman had said, teach your children by way of their bent, the way that they lean. And then every time he used the word after that, I would have interpreted bent as a bet as bent. It's just one of those things with a multilingual audience. You need to be aware that your accent may not translate to other people. Magda talked about using strong metaphors, and she used a really good metaphor. One suggestion again for Magda. Magda used woman rather than women, as in more than 60% of women do this. And it's a cultural thing, but I just thought I would mention it. Antoinette's most grueling experience. And what a fabulous phrase. We need to be like a stamp and letter. That's how close we need to be. I thought that was particularly well done. John C., I want to go one of those afternoon bull sessions because I think that'd be a fabulous idea. I had drinks with some of my teachers because, like you, at 18 we could, but we didn't have bull sessions while we were supposed to be at school. Jimmy D., my heart was broken. Well done. I really enjoyed that. Lewis, the world at your feet. That's a really nice phrase, and it's the sort of phrase that we should use to paint pictures in our audience's minds. Jacinta, clear and articulate. Although, interesting to use articulate in that way, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but Christian's choo, 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 the mentoring train rolled on. Great use of onomatopoeia there. I think it's onomatopoeia. She and her husband was moving away was a phrase that was used at one stage. She and her husband were moving away, not was. And something was described as being more impactful. I would have preferred had more impact, but having said that, that's called anthemeria, which is where you turn a noun into a verb. We see it happening all the time. I will keyboard you that. What an ugly construction. So try not to indulge in anthemeria. Use verbs as verbs, use nouns as nouns, and give each their value. But having said that, I really enjoyed the meeting as grammarian. I thought there were some delightful turns of phrase tonight and no particularly egregious errors. So well done.
I thought that was particularly well done, Graham. Thank you very much. Hopefully I got that correct. Okay, and next will be our watcher, Sybil. If you could please share with us what you saw tonight. You're muted.
Off their video at the very beginning. Good. And a handful of people had the black screen through the whole meeting, and also one member was completely dark for the whole meeting. But anyway, other than that, nothing unusual, just a lot of great backgrounds, and the rest of it was, I guess, where you guys are at home. Nothing unusual to report.
Thank you, Sybil. And I can say from watching you, you were smiling the whole meeting. So that is a good sign that you were enjoying yourself. Next, we would like to hear from our chat monitor. So Lou, can you please share with us what you thought of our chat tonight?
Certainly, Mr. General Evaluator. We had some good use of the chat. There was some interesting information in there. First, we heard from Jimmy with some remarkable educational goals that he has in completing 2 CCs, and also that his grandson recently started the 7th grade. Magda included a link to, I'm going to say Mai Tai, sounds like the drink, Mai Tai, to the Nobel Prize website for Mai Tai. Dave shared with us a link to Davy and Goliath, and I'm not exactly sure how that came up in context, but at first I was thinking David and Goliath, and then when I went, I'm like, oh, I remember that show. That was an awesome show, Davy and Goliath. We also got a interesting new way to spell women with an I versus an O, and a phonetic pronunciation key for onomatopoeia. One last item is, I just happened to notice Graham the grammarian. That's actually kind of an interesting phrase, like grammarian. I mean, you can even economize on words if you wanted to. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Lou, for your observations and comments. At this time, I would like to hear from our awe counter. So Deborah, could you please share with us what you have for us?
I will. We just, the thing about me is I start listening and then I forget that I'm supposed to be paying attention or counting something. But overall, everyone did really great in here tonight. We didn't have anything to, we didn't have an abundance of anything, to speak of. A couple people had a couple ahs and a couple people had ums, but it was nothing more than 2 at a time. So no one gets detention. Back to you, Tiger.
Thank you very much. That was short and sweet, and we'll accept that. So, last would be our vote counter, which is Clarissa.
All right. Well, first I want to say the speeches were fantastic, and I am so inspired to finally move forward and probably get my name on the list of giving a presentation. Great job, great inspiration. For best speaker, we have Norman. Great job, everyone, really. For best table topics, thank you guys. You now know it was me. Yes, I have the clumsy gene, so you will remember that, and the bell bottoms. And for best evaluator, it was very close. Christian, thank you. Great evaluation, but also Jacinta, you did a great job as well. It was very, very close. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, everybody, for an excellent job. And Clarissa, I guess we just have to trust that you are an honest person. Thank you very much. I'll turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster.
Thank you, General Evaluator Tiger. Hey, it's our end of our back to school meeting, and we all need to learn something today. There was some discussion about geography earlier, so I brought up this map of Canada because as a Michigan native, I want to let you all know where I'm from. You see, here in Canada, when we go to the southernmost tip of Canada, just below Quebec and Ontario, There it is. That's where Michigan is. Okay. Our meeting was excellent today. Thank you, everybody. To finish things up, we'll go to our presiding officer, Madam Lois.
Thank you, John. Well, we are having a fabulous, fabulous meeting today. We have a couple of items to note. John, do you want to bring up any Vice President educational moments?
No.
Okay. Well, David, our special guest speaker, do we have a date on him?
Oh, I do need to get back to that gentleman.
Okay.
Well,
So we do have one coming up for everybody that's on the call here. August 19th, we need a Toastmaster of the Day. Who is going to stretch and grow and stand out as that fabulous Toastmaster of the Day? Thank you, Magda. Yay! Where are we? Just to the officers, please send your votes. Marianne, you are looking to join the club, correct? You're on mute?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay. For the officers, please send Elaine your vote. We do vote in our newest members, just so you know. August 24th is the speechathon. We have 2 people so far. Is there anybody else that's going to sign up, or are we going to be good with 2? Magda signing up. Anyone else? Oh, Clarissa, Norman.
Excuse me, Louis. I think that time for me is like 5 o'clock in the morning. I need to check out the time first.
Okay, you let us know. And you know what? We won't even worry about the bags under your eyes if it's 5 in the morning. You know, we won't see them. We promise.
That's not the issue. The issue is that I don't find my brain before the first coffee.
I get it. Okay, so I saw Norman and I saw Clarissa. You're both going to sign up on the website. And Jim, are you going to be signing up too? I saw that raise. Almost had you there. Okay.
I was agreeing with Magda about the coffee.
Okay, so I've talked about that. Elaine, do you have a moment to, was it Elaine or Jacinta who just texted me? Jacinta, excuse me. Jacinta, will you take over for a moment?
Yes, I would like to say congratulations to John for completing Level 3 of Visionary Communications. Congratulations, John. This is your virtual certificate.
Yay! Congratulations, John. We are so happy when each one of our members contributes to not only our Distinguished Club points, but also to whom they are as a Toastmaster. Elaine, did you have anything you wanted to mention real fast?
Well, we continue to be pleased receiving RSVPs from typically 3 to 6 people for every meeting. Sometimes they don't all show, and that happened tonight. But I'm so glad that Patty Adams joined us, and Marianne was returning for her second visit. I would love to hear from each of them, starting with Patty first, just sharing some comments with us about your experience tonight.
My experience was absolutely wonderful. One of the best things that I enjoyed is the voice inflection that were used within the speeches. That was just phenomenal to me. One of the reasons why I was kind of hesitant about the online atmosphere is because I've always been in that physical meeting, so you get to use your entire body instead of just your hands. But the fact that the speakers used their hands as well as their voice inflection, it really added a lot of extra oomph to their speeches. So I thoroughly enjoyed the meeting overall. Thank you.
I have a question. It's Deborah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned about the do's or do. Is that by the 1st of September, the 15th, or the 30th?
David?
It's by the end of September.
And okay, great. I just couldn't remember when. I just knew September. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's not a rush, but
yeah.
Don't make me hunt you down. Too bad.
In other words, start budgeting.
Yeah.
Want to mention where we go on the website?
The page that says renew.
Okay, that was that. And I don't think we heard from Marianne about the meeting, since you're still officially a guest. What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I learned a new word, which I always appreciate. I will start telling my coworkers that I'm going to keyboard them something. That will definitely blow some people away. No, I really appreciate this venue. I appreciate getting to know everybody and to learn a little bit more about this little box. And I realized that we have to use our hands, and that was something that I didn't really realize, but now I certainly do. Exactly. So yeah, I would look forward to being part of this club.
Okay. And I did say a big warm welcome back to Viviana. We haven't seen her in a while. And Rolando, who's, I think, second time this month. So yay, he's getting back in the swing of things. Quick note, September 2nd is Labor Day. Who plans on being in the meeting? I know this is not just a U.S. club, but I want to make sure there's enough people for a meeting. Okay, so y'all are good having the meeting. I don't know if I can convince my husband that I'm taken away from Labor Day because I have a lot of other commitments. But do I have an officer who will be here on Labor Day? Jacinta, did I see you raise your hand? Okay, good. At least I have one officer. We are off and running then. That is it for me. Is there anyone else that has anything that they need to bring up? Did you all like the fact, real quick show of hands, because I got 1 minute to go. Did you all like the fact that we started Lou just a minute or two earlier so we could open the meeting right at 7:45 and have extra table topics? Okay, that seemed like that was a positive move. So thank you, everybody. This meeting is officially closed. We will stay online for about another 3 to 5 minutes. And for the officers, you have the link. We'll give it 5 minutes and we'll head over there in case you want to take a break. Meeting officially adjourned.
Well done, everyone. Really enjoyed that meeting.
Thank you. I did too. I thought it was well done. I wasn't sure how it was going to work with starting a little bit early, but I thought it went well.
There was a good mix of all sorts of things in there today, and I really enjoyed this. I'll see you guys next meeting, where I'm down to do something watcher, I think.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, Graham, I thought you were a fabulous grammarian. That was one of the most detailed grammarian speeches I had heard in a very long time. So thank you for that.
I hope it was useful. All right.
It
Bye,
was.
everyone.
Bye. And Christian, I thought your evaluation was, oh, there he is. I thought it was spot on. I thought you did a really good job getting that all together. So thank you.
Thank you. I actually missed out on a couple of things though.
Well, you know, you can't get them all, but when you write it up, that's when you can kind of sit back, figure it out, and make sure that you've got everything that you need to know.
But I think Jacinta was very good as well in terms of evaluation.
She was. I thought Jacinta, you know, Norman's a really hard person to evaluate. I've had to evaluate him before. He's tough. When he puts those slides out there, they're like perfection.
They are.
So I get that. So Norman, great job. You know what? I think I mentioned to you that I would ask you to challenge yourself. Try and move. And David was saying it right as I was typing it to you, where you go back and forth, like have your screen and then show you, speak a little bit, and then go back to your screen, because your screens are very static and you really don't have a lot of them. So for 5 to 7 minutes, we're sitting on one screen for a really long time. So my challenge would be for you to flip back, talk a little bit, and go back. And David was mentioning that at the same time I'm writing, going, hey, David, stop that. But anyway.
Okay, I understand. I didn't really get what you meant when I saw the chat, but now I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Christian.
I think with a new feature in Zoom, there's the split screen where you can see half of the screen with the slides and half of the screen with the speakers video feed.
David, do you know anything about that?
No, I was going to ask, where do you find that? I've seen it if you have like 2 monitors, you can split it up. But
I have to check. I think Roger sent something on that early on.
okay.
I can check and I can send it back in the group mail.
That'd be great. Thank you. And Patty, you said you had a couple of questions. Oh, you had to turn here. Let me unmute you.
Yes,
There
I
you
had
go.
more than a couple, but I will ask a couple here. I just don't want to keep you all night. So I'm just trying to get a feel for the club. I think on the YouTube video that Missy Lane sent me, it said that you all have about 50 members, so you have maybe about 25 that's typically active.
I think that's about right. As far as trying to get on the speaking circuit, what we do is we have speechathons once every 4 to 6 weeks. So we have 6 or 7 members that can sign up for that and give speeches that way. So that gives them extra speaking time. And then if we don't have extra people, we also have them turn right around and give the evaluations.
Thank you. And then you have members that's working on pathways as well as the old manuals?
I think Graham's the only one working on the old manuals. Is there anybody else? I think it's just Graham, and he's thrown his challenge out there. I can't wait to hear it. I'm excited.
We also, Patty, we also encourage people to get a speech ready and sign up as backup speaker. Write it, practice it the next week, and kind of have it ready. It's a different kind of challenge. But
I've done those before, but I love that. I love a good challenge.
There you go.
There you
So
go.
that's awesome. Now I noticed that you stated that the dues were $52, and last that I checked, it was $45. So do y'all take up some additional dues for something?
We do. We have to pay for the Zoom account, which is what we're using here, and we have a professional account. So that $7 goes towards the Zoom. In other words, the platform you're watching that you see us on, it's a professional platform.
Okay, I'm sorry, my internet was messing up, so I didn't hear the answer.
Okay, so yeah, I was wondering about that. I'm going, no, it's our platform. So this Zoom platform we're on here, that is basically $150 a year. It's a professional platform, so we have to pay for that. And as much as we love David, he's not going to pay for it all. So
No, I kind of figured that's what it was for, but I just wanted to ask. And so most of the members, do they also attend district meetings? Like this is an undistrict club. Are many of the members part of district clubs as well?
yeah, there are a few that only belong to an online club, but the majority, I think, are both.
Okay.
Yeah, Elaine over there is waving her hand. She's undistricted only.
Okay.
And Christian, I didn't realize that.
Well, thank you. I really just wanted to get some of the things that was important to me on trying to make a decision whether this is the route that I want to go or not. And those are some really big things for me. So thank y'all for staying a little extra time to enlighten me with answering the questions for me. I really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, I'll be back again.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody. For the officers, we have another call coming on. So I will say adieu at this point. Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Quick heads up to David. I sent you a message on the purpose statement for one of the speech projects on WordPress.
Oh.
Can you just check it out, please?
Is it something I need to fix or?
Yeah, I think so, yes, because the purpose statement for one of the projects is not the same as in the actual Pathways speech project.
All right. And that was an email you sent to me?
No, I sent it in the Zoom chat.
In the Zoom chat. Okay, so I'll save that. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.